A warm welcome and a fresh morning to one and all present here. I am Manovarshini LK from the Department of Civil Engineering from St. Joseph's College of Engineering, and on behalf of the organizing committee, I'm glad to welcome you all to this webinar, Getting Smart, organized by the Department of Science. I would like to take this wonderful opportunity to thank the most respected chairman of St. Joseph's Group of Institutions, Dr. B. Babu Manoharan sir, Managing Director, Ms. S. Jessie Priya ma'am, Director, Mr. V. Shashi Shekhar sir, Principal, Dr. Vatti Sheshagiri Rao sir, Dean, Dr. Parvatavartini ma'am, and the head of the Department of Science and the convener of this program, Dr. V. N. Nandini Devi ma'am, for giving us this untiring guidance and needful support for conducting this webinar. With this introductory note, now I would like to welcome the invited speaker Timothy Prakash to begin today's session on the topic quantum biology.
Thank you, Manavarshini, for giving an awesome, heartwarming introduction. Myself, Timothy Prakash, from the Department of Civil Engineering at St. Joseph College of Engineering. We will see what this term quantum biology means. Quantum biology is a branch of quantum physics. Quantum physics is one of the weirdest topic and also a powerful topic among science. Quantum biology is the study of application of quantum mechanics and theoretical chemistry to biological objects and problems. Many biological processes involve quantum mechanics in nature, such as chemical reaction, light absorption, formation of excited electronic state, transfer of excitation energy, and transfer of electrons and protons. Now let's know about the origin of quantum mechanics. On 15th of August 1934, Niels Bohr gave a speech on International Congress of Light Therapy in Copenhagen with the topic of light and life. There he sparkled some important fundamental phenomena in biology or related to some physical phenomena which is quantum mechanics. He portrayed that electron shift within energy levels in an atom is due to quantum tunneling, and he called it as quantum jumps. Many didn't believe him because it was just a theory by his time. Later, Max Delbrück, a theoretical physicist who was inspired by Bohr, Delbrück didn't mean that by physics we could understand genetics, but by genetics he might uncover some new principles of physics. In 1937, Delbrück began to investigate the genetics of bacterial viruses and how they replicate. It was all about transmitting information, but he didn't understand how this information gets transmitted, but the key was quantum mechanics. Later, Erwin Schrödinger published an extremely influencing little book called What is Life? He pondered the question of how an event at the atomic scale, maybe a mutation in the molecular structure of a gene, happens, presumably by the laws of quantum mechanics, could potentially cause a profound and visible change in the structure of living organism. He signifies genes as an aperiodic crystal, that is, an arrangement of atoms that was highly specific, not random, but that didn't have a regular repeating structure like a crystal. Later, he was proved right, which made modern molecular biology or quantum biology. Now let's see an introduction about quantum biology. Quantum physics started molecular biology. Quantum physics is the root of everything, as Bohr himself showed in his famous paper in 1913, where he laid out the theory of atoms. Quantum mechanics can explain why atoms bond together to form molecules like proteins and DNA and RNA, of which all life depends. Quantum physics may be scary or mysterious or controversial to some people who are not familiar with it, but it's an usual thing here. According to Richard Feynman's famous quote that no one understands quantum mechanics anyway, that if you think you do, then it shows you don't, but it doesn't mean that it is hard to understand. It's hard to understand what it means, even though it's a speculative area of research in science. To study about life, we need to know about molecular biology. If you look down deep into enough into molecular biology at its heart, it essentially organic chemistry. Organic chemistry, of course, subject to the rules of quantum mechanics, because quantum mechanics tells the electron how to arrange themselves within atoms and how atoms fit together to form molecules. As you zoom more, the molecules fit together and forms a life. If physicists want to study about quantum effects, then they need sophisticated equipment. They have to cool things down to absolute zero. They have to create extreme vacuums greater than interstellar space, where biological process happens in the condition opposite to it, even though it is absorbed by modern equipments and with a little patience. Now, in the left side, you can see a skier skates through a tree. This is what mostly happens in quantum world. Particles may behave like waves. They can be in two states at once. They can pass through walls and they can communicate with each other instantly over vast distances faster than speed of light, which is not even possible by Einstein's theory of relativity. But quantum biology is still in its infancy. To understand quantum biology, let's know some basic phenomena happening in quantum physics. Let's do the two-slit experiment. Imagine a monochromatic source of light, that is, a light of same wavelength appearing on a screen. As the light hits the screen, it squeezes through the two slits and the light spreads out and diffracts. As the waves of light overlaps with each other, in the end screen you will be able to see an interfering pattern. It's just the nature of light, since light behave like waves, so it is normal. Now let's do the same experiment with sand particles. When we pour some sands through two slits, we will get two bumps underneath each of the slit, where the two bumps shows that particle behavior and the interfering pattern shows the wave-like behavior. Okay, in atomic level, this is also nature of particle. So there is nothing to be surprised. Now let's repeat the same experiment with atoms. Let's block one slit and let the atoms go through only one slit, which is the lower slit. The atom gun starts to shoot atoms. Atoms passes through the open slit and hits the screen behind, which is an atom sensor screen which indicates where the atom hits. In the screen, you will get a trace of atoms through the open slit since the other slit is blocked. So we get only one band as shown in the figure. Now let's shoot atoms with two slits open. Now we get see the interfering patterns which we got with light rather than having two bands. Rather than showing particle nature, here we get pattern of waves. Here could be some forces between atoms that could coordinate to give this pattern. Even though we send the atoms one by one, we will gradually get the same wave pattern only. Each particle contributes its small part to behave like waves that we see in the interfering pattern. Now let us repeat the same experiment and with addition, let's keep a detector on the upper slit to track the path of atom passing through the upper slit. As you fire the atom one at a time, 50% of the time the detector will beep as the atom passes through the upper slit. Other time it goes through the lower slit. Now we get two bands which shows particle nature rather than getting an interfering pattern which we got earlier. Okay, now let's off the detector and make the atoms think that we are still checking on them. As we didn't check, now we get the same interfering pattern. It shows the particle nature while keeping an eye on them and shows wave nature when no one watches them. Amazing, right? But a little weird too. Till now, no one exactly know how this happens. This is one of the weirdness of quantum mechanics, even though it is the most powerful theory in the whole science. Now let's see some quantum process and application of that process in biology. First, let's know about quantum tunneling. Quantum tunneling is the quantum mechanical phenomena where a subatomic particle's probability disappears from one side of a potential barrier and appears on the other side without any probability current flowing through inside the wall. In simple words, we can say, imagine you are throwing a ball against the wall. It will definitely bounce back, right? But in quantum world, if you throw a ball against the wall, it will disappear on one side and reappears on other. That phenomena is called quantum tunneling. Very small particles can tunnel readily than larger particles. The heavier it is, the lesser it tends to tunnel. Let's see its application. Here we have an image of the scanning tunneling microscope or STM, which is invented by Gerd Billing and Heinrich Rohrer, allows imaging of individual atoms on the surface of a material. Thus, it is very sensitive, even a single atom can be detected by this microscope. Let's know how we do that. The tip is adjusted to keep the tunneling current constant. The electron tunnels from the tip to the surface even though it is separated by a distance. The electron just jumps or tunnels to the surface, and any single atom poking up from the surface can be produce a large change in the tunneling current. By piezoelectric rods, a time-varying current is recorded and used to image the surface of the conductor. This is how this works. Now let's see another application in biology. Sun, the reason why the sun shines by quantum tunneling. Quantum tunneling is a nuclear fission reaction happening in the sun. Hydrogen nuclei in the sun fuse to form helium by the process of thermonuclear fission. But here two protons are both positively charged and they should repel each other. Unless it gets very close, then the strong nuclear force that binds atomic nuclei together can get a hold. But it's a short range force, but they get close enough together, ignoring the repulsion. This happens as the proton seep through the repulsion potential barrier by quantum tunneling and get so close to the other atom and form helium. But when we say this phenomena to chemists, they are replying that they see this in their everyday life. Let's see how. In the catalytic reaction, the enzymes do this every time to alter the rate of the reaction. You can see two isomeric form of alpha hydroxy phenoxyl radical. The proton transfer need energy to jump, but it's made easier by quantum tunneling. Without any requirement of energy, when we replace the hydrogen with its isotope deuterium, it tends to tunnel less because we know deuterium is a heavier isotope than hydrogen, thus altering the rate of tunneling by altering the rate of mass of the tunneling particle. This hydrogen jump we can see in our DNA too. DNA consists of four nucleotides, namely adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine, in which hydrogen atom acts as a glue between two strands and held together like you observe from the image in the left side. Let's see in more detail. In the right side image, you can observe adenine and thymine are held together by a pair of hydrogen bonds. This hydrogen bond can be shifted by giving some external energy, but they can tunnel across without observing any kind of energy and sit on the other side. And you will get a slightly different form of nucleotide, what's called the tautomerism form. During this form, if any hydrogen of thymine tunnels and stick to another nucleotide, which may be a guanine or cytosine, then it results in mutation. This theory is suggested by a Swedish physicist named P. of Lorden. Let's see this quantum tunneling in another biological process too. Olfaction, which means the sense of smelling. In the olfactory bulb in our nose, there are membranes studded with protein molecules that have cavities where the smelly molecules get launched. They smell precisely because they can slot into the slides on the receptor protein and trigger some nerve signal. Okay, but the question is, what are a molecule? Like how they start the process off? Let's know. Some biologists suggested that it works on lock and key principle. Here the process involves that the odorant and the receptor are like a key and a lock of complementary shapes which fit each other, but it's not right because we smell many molecules at a time. Even though we have different types of receptors, it is not possible because some molecules with different shapes smell similar. So, what's the phenomena involved in this? Let's know in detail. In the left side, we have almond and musk with different shapes but smell similar. And here are another two molecules, all carbon and S carbon, with same structure but smell very different. Therefore, the lock and key principle is wrong. In 1996, the scientist Luca Turan suggested that the smell might not work on lock and key principle. Instead, the odorant receptor are vibration sensors, which sense the vibration of the molecules. Yes, the gap between the receptor and the odorant molecules are covered by channeling. The electron in the odorant molecule channel to the receptor without getting in any actual contact. Then the receptor senses the vibration, which triggers a smell response, where the frequency of heavier molecule is less than lighter molecule. This can be observed by fruit flies. In 2011, a team in Greece experimented with the fruit flies, where they placed them in a T-shaped maze like you observe in the left side image, with two attractive odor. One was the deuterium form of the other. The result was the flies preferred the ordinary stuff over the heavy stuff. Since deuterium is heavier and tends to channel lesser than hydrogen. There are some experiments which shows bees can also avoid deuterated odors, but there are no evidence yet that humans can tell the difference. Now let's see another quantum phenomena, quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement is the phenomena that occurs when a pair or group is generated or shares spatial proximity, then the quantum state of each particle cannot be described independently, even separated by large distance. I hope could only very few could understand this. To say this in simple words, just imagine a scientist on Earth and another scientist on Pluto. A dice is thrown by each scientist at once. If the dice on the Earth shows 5, then the other dice spontaneously change its number as 5, which is faster than the speed of light, which is not possible according to Einstein's theory of relativity. But he only found this mysterious quantum phenomena too, and named it as spooky action at a distance. He found this by doing an experiment with electrons. Now let's see that experiment. In 1935, Einstein published a paper where he imagined an experiment in which two particles would be generated with quantum states that had to be related to one another. Now, two electrons would be spat out in opposite direction from a device. If we measure one electron spin, then the another one must have the opposite spin by Pauli's exclusive principle. Thus, this pair if electrons are entangled. When we make the measurement on one electron, then that decision is made by the universe at random, where we force the choice. But it seems that the choice has to be communicated instantly to the other, even if they have separated by vast distances. Later experiments with photon by measuring the polarization also proved that they should be entangled. Now let's see the biological application for this phenomena. The European robin, a bird which lives in the northern Europe, which finds a warmer climate during winter. So it migrates down to the Mediterranean and even down to the coast of Africa. It knows how to navigate across thousands of miles. It may navigate by using some landmarks or the position of stars while traveling at night and also senses the Earth's magnetic field. Till now, scientists didn't know the origin of Earth's magnetic field, but everyone know without the magnetic field we wouldn't be alive. But how this bird senses the weak Earth's magnetic field? Alexander von Middendorf, a Russian zoologist and explorer, was the first to investigate the influence of the Earth's magnetic field on migrating birds. He postulated the bird senses the presence of the Earth's magnetic field with some magnetic sensing campus inside the bird's brain. As you see in the left side image, many birds have found to have these tiny magnetite crystal in the end of their beaks. When the birds are aligned to a particular direction relative to the Earth's magnetic field, then that will cause this magnetic crystal to adjust and move, and as they do, they will create some signal to the brain which tells the bird to move in a particular direction. But the couple above are German physicists who carried out an experiment with European robins. They realized that these birds migrate not by sensing Earth's magnetic field, but by sensing the angle of inclination of the field. First, let's know what is angle of inclination. In the right side, that is the contour map of magnetic inclination angle. For the Earth, the magnetic field comes from the geological South Pole to the North Pole. The field lines are vertical in the poles, but in the equator, it's horizontal, parallel to the ground. The angle of inclination decreases from the pole to the equator. The European robin moved from central Scandinavia with the inclination 75 degree to about 20 degree down the Mediterranean. The strength of the field also changes. Now we know it migrates by sensing the angle of inclination. But how it does that? Let's know. Inside the bird's retina, in the backside of the eye of the European robin, there is a protein called cryptochrome, also called as magnetoreceptor, which produces pair of radicals that are entangled to each other and senses the angle of inclination of the Earth's weak magnetic field and promotes some hormonal secretion to change its direction. Research shows that fruit flies also can sense Earth's magnetic field. Amazing creation by God, right? Now let's know another quantum process, which is quantum coherence. Quantum coherence is the process of existing in two or more states or else two or more places at the same time until we observe. As long as there exists a definite phase relation between different states, a system is said to be coherent. It is also known as superposition. The opposite phenomena of quantum coherence is quantum decoherence. Let us see some example for this phenomena in atomic scale. When the isotope of polonium-190 undergoes alpha decay, it forms lead-186, which manages to have three shapes at once, all with the same energy until we observe. In the above image, lead-186 is spherical in the left side and oblate in the middle and prolate in the right. These are the three shapes. Now let's see this phenomena occurring in biological process. Yes, it happens in photosynthesis. which we are studying from 6th standard. Quantum coherence in photosynthesis. The chlorophyll pigment absorbs sunlight and the energy called excitons then transmitted to photosynthetic reaction center. Finding the path by random hopping is inefficient and time consuming. During this, some energy may be wasted as heat. But here, experiment shows that these excitons transfer in two or more paths at a time at the same time, and each reach the photosynthetic reaction center more efficiently by this quantum coherence phenomena. This quantum coherence process is also now brought in modern technology. The above quantum computer is made by Canadian company D-Wave. Here, they aim to encode information in quantum states. The advantage of a quantum computer is that a single quantum bit could be replaced in several states at once, not just 1 or 0, but a bit of both, and this is called superposition state. This let the quantum computer perform many calculations at once. They are very vulnerable to decoherence too. That's why we have quantum computers with only a handful of bits which need to be cooled at very low temperature. This cooling requires great space too. I hope some people should be familiar with Squandige's cat experiment. We know what is superposition and entanglement, but what happens when superposition and entanglement take place together? Yeah, Erwin Scondinger came up with an experiment of letting a cat inside a box connected to a mechanism that would release the poison. Quantum mechanics says if you close the box and not looking inside the box, you can't say at any given time whether the poison spattered the cat or not until you open the box, which means the poison is emitted and not emitted at the same time, which is superposition. Until the box is open, the cat is alive as the poison emitted, and the cat is also dead as the poison is not emitted. Thus, we force the fate of the cat to be dead or alive, which really we don't know yet, but it's dead and alive at the same time until you open the box. But the cat is made up of trillions of atoms, and it is very hard to maintain that quantum behavior. This is the thought of Schrödinger. Some scientists suggest that even human consciousness is connected with quantum physics. In 1989, Roger Penrose, a great mathematical physicist who is still alive, proposed that human consciousness would have a quantum origin. In his book, The Emperor's New Mind, which you could see above, in that book he suggested that a choice called wave function collapses all the possibility into a single outcome when we choose between things. The many world interpretation says that even choices happen in different universe, which is multiverse theory. For example, just imagine you are in a situation to select your higher studies between engineering and medicine. Okay, you have two choices now. Now, if you choose engineering in this current universe, then you will learn medicine in another universe, which is multiverse, according to quantum doppelgangers, the many world interpretation. This theory is agreed by the great physicist Stephen Hawking too. Stuart Hameroff suggested that entanglement between electrons on protein structure called microtubules in brain could be a root for this process. Roger Penrose also says that living organisms are the only macroscopic object whose dynamics are controlled by a single molecule, as a single mutation in the DNA can change the entire organism. Even the evolution of human depends on this theory only. As we come to the conclusion of our topic, there are few questions among the quantum biology. Do our brains act as quantum computers? Is consciousness the result of the collapse of quantum superposition? I led this question to the viewers and the young, energetic, emerging minds of the world. Thank you for one and all listening to my speech patiently, and I hope everyone would be astonished by quantum biology. By Niels Bohr's famous quote says, if you are not astonished by quantum mechanics, then you have not understood it. Still, quantum biology is in its infancy. Once again, I thank you everyone for listening to my speech. Now, if you have any doubts or you have any questions, you can ask to me. Okay, a good question. Will quantum channel play a role in nervous system for transmitting information signal? Okay. Still there are no theory paper or suggestions which says nervous system transmission involves quantum tunneling. If there are any research or any papers including nervous system, then I will say to you. Till now, there are no experiments or results relating that. Thank you. Only European robin bird could sense the angle of inclination of Earth's weak magnet. No, European robin bird is a bird which we use for experiment. The experiment purpose that scientists used only European robin bird because European robin travels more distance, longer distance than other birds. Birds like pigeons, cranes, and more birds can sense the angle of inclination of Earth's weak magnetic field. Thank you. Could you explain what is quantum decoherence? Yeah, quantum decoherence is the inability of a particle to behave in quantum coherence. That is, the particle to be in one or two places at once or one or two states at once. Thank you. Could we use quantum biology to make mutation in organism? Quantum biology, we can't use quantum biology for mutation purpose because quantum mechanics takes place naturally. We can only arrange the surroundings to make the quantum process happen. So we couldn't use quantum biology to make mutation, but we can understand mutation by using quantum biology. For mutation, there are now more methods to make mutation in genes. Other methods in quantum biology that helps you detect the gene alteration and sequencing in RNA, else DNA molecule. Yeah, that's a good question. We can't force any quantum behavior, as I already told. We can only observe it, which occur in its own account. If you need to alter the gene, then you need to apply energy. but natural alteration process involve quantum biology. Thank you. Inside the cryptochrome of the bird is that two radical pair belongs to same atom or different atom? Yeah, it's a good question. The cryptochrome produces two electrons from the same atom, okay, but they are separated by a distance. Even though it is from a same atom, it is separated by a small distance. Since they are entangled, one electron senses the Earth's weak magnetic field and transfers information to the, entangled radical and induces to stimulate the hormone which indicates the bird to change its direction. Thank you. Is there any evidence for multiverse? No, there are yet no evidence for multiverse, but there are theory papers which are clear, but there are only theory papers. There are no practical paper in there are no practical which involves multiverse theory. But this theory is accepted by Stephen Hawking too. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy Prakash, for your amazing presentation. I would like to thank the patrons of the Joseph College of Engineering and the convener of this program, that is the head of my department, for giving us the wonderful opportunity. And I would also like to extend that my gratitude to all the staff coordinates who guide us throughout this presentation. And last but not least, I thank all the participants and my dear friends for patiently listening to this webinar. Without you, this webinar have not been this successful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you everyone for listening to my webinar.